Hi there, and welcome back to another edition of ScaleUp Radio, the podcast inspired by the Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System and designed to make navigating our scale-up journeys that little bit easier by learning from others' experiences. I'm Kevin Brent, and this week on the show, I'm joined by Stuart Richards, or Stu as he likes to be known. He's the founder of Nomadic Washrooms. So we discover how Stu and his wife transformed their wedding day challenge into a flourishing luxury portable toilet and shower rental business. That's not something I thought I would say every day. From a single trailer to 19 now, Nomadic Washrooms now enhances weddings, festivals and corporate events across the UK. And we learn about their growth through franchising, operational strategies we learn about as well, and the unique marketing that drives their success. If you enjoy this episode and enjoy other episodes, make sure you don't miss any future episodes by subscribing to ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcast. And you can nominate a guest for ScaleUp Radio if you know someone with an interesting scale-up story, and you can find out how in the show notes below. So for now, join us for an inspiring journey of innovation, strategic expansion, and the vision behind elevating event experiences with Nomadic Washrooms and Stu the Poo. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm delighted today to be joined by Stuart Richards, who is the founder and director of Nomadic Washrooms. So, Stuart, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Hi, Kevin. Good to see you.
Yeah, and you. And am I going to be calling you Stu or Stuart? What do you prefer?
Stu, yeah, I'll go by Stu. We have a hashtag related to the business, which I might tell you about later, but we'll leave it at that for now.
Oh, will we? Go on. No, go on. You can't do that. What's the hashtag?
So, yeah, it'll become apparent a bit later on as we talk, but the hashtag that I go by, or my wife has put me as, is Stu the Poo.
Stu the Poo. Which leads us in nicely to me saying, what's Nomadic Washrooms about?
Well, yeah, Nomadic Washrooms is a fairly unique business and probably slightly different to the sorts of businesses that you've talking about on your show so far. We're a luxury toilet hire business, and we have sort of positioned ourselves within a niche market within the events, weddings, and corporate industry, in that we rent out for special occasions shepherd's hut toilets and showers. So we like to think that they're the top end of that market, and they're very unique in the business. So we operate across the country from 2 yards at the moment. We are expanding, and we will have 19 trailers on the road this year, going everywhere from the top of Scotland down to the south of Cornwall, but concentrated in the sort of Midland counties and Wales.
Brilliant. So 19 of them. And what is different then about your shepherd's huts then?
There's only a handful of people who do shepherd's hut toilet hire throughout the country. And so basically, Kate and I, my wife, who's a fellow director and founder with me, we got married. We had a marquee wedding, and we were looking for toilets that just stood out a little bit, something that you'd have your photo taken in front of instead of hiding the loos behind the marquee. Yeah. And we found that there was very, very little on the market. So we, on a whim, decided to do a little bit of market research and bought our first loo. And our toilets are fairly unique in that if you walked inside one, you get a really rustic, quirky, top quality feel. They have high level flush traditional Victorian toilets in.
Okay, yeah.
We've got bucket sinks. One of our main features is that our urinals are actually milk churns, which have been converted, which is always a bit of fun.
Yeah, I've seen that sort of thing in a few pubs and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So we decided to put it on a trailer and take it to wherever and whomever will have us.
Great. Good. Well, as you say, I've not had anybody on before that where we've been talking toilets for most of it. But so you mentioned that you've got to get these trailers all over the country. How does the business model work for you? How do you make money?
So basically, how we operate is that we hire our loos out typically for a day. Our main clientele are couples getting married and doing their own wedding setup, so whether that be at home or at a venue that allows you to do your own wedding and get a marquee in and all your suppliers in. And typically we hire them the toilet for a night, a day, or a weekend, depending on how long their event is.
Yeah.
And that is the core. That's probably, I would say, 90% of our business. But we also, as our fleet has expanded, we're now able to do a lot of festivals. So we're doing Glastonbury, we do Wilderness Festival, we do Silverstone, and by building the business and putting on more trailers, we were able to cater for these big events. So the rest of it comes from that and corporate dues, where businesses have decided to have a day, an activity day or whatnot. So yeah, that's our model. Now it's a seasonal business, obviously, because a lot of this work happens in the summer, and freezing temperatures and water don't go well together. So although we have insulated our trailers and they are, protected against it, the majority of our work comes in the summer months. When we first started, we were a little naive. Kate and I, we had one trailer, and we thought that we could book that out, and wherever it took us, we'd go and stay and have a lovely weekend away, whether it was in the country. But as the business grew, that became impossible because having 19 trailers in different locations becomes very difficult. So we have now expanded. So we have a yard. We're based in mid Wales, a little town called Welshpool, just outside of Welshpool.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of our clients were based around Oxfordshire and London. So last year we opened a satellite yard down there, and we split the fleet, and half of the trailers are down there. And to sort of further progress and get our trailers nearer to our clients, to bring down the delivery charge and make it more affordable to the masses, we are developing a franchise. And our first our pilot franchisee is coming on board, who will be having 5 trailers over in Colchester in Essex. So the idea is to get, like I said before, our trailers closer to the clients, because the fee for hiring them is the same, but it's the delivery that can sometimes kill it for most people who haven't got a huge budget.
Yes, which was sort of a little bit behind my question. If you're going to deliver out to Scotland, it's they're going to pay a lot more than somebody would have to have it near Welshpool. Yeah.
Sometimes the delivery charge can be more than the hire when we're going that far, which is interesting. Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple of things there. We'll try and pick on some of it. But the seasonality. So what can you do to address the seasonality? You mentioned just before we started talking on air that that you'd had a bit more business over the winter this time. Yeah.
So we've sort of taken the view that if there's work out there to be had, we'll take it. So when we first started, we were a bit nervous about doing things over winter because, like I said, with the freezing temperatures and water not mixing brilliantly, but we've improved our trailers and we're now comfortable with them going out over the winter. We've just come back from a really, really cool event in King's Cross in London, which was a pop-up sauna. And we provided a shower for that, and that was great business. It took a trailer for a month and worked really well. But we have also now so previously we'd been getting these trailers manufactured by someone else, but we've just this year taken the decision to build them ourselves, which has done two things. It brings the investment down because they're a considerable amount of money, and we can build them for a lot less. And it also means that we can retain good staff for the winter and provide them with a role, and also provide income through the sale of huts to our franchisees, to keep the business ticking over nicely, and cash flow for paying our staff, who we don't want to lose because we managed to get some real good chaps in.
Interesting. Okay, I like it. So that gives you, as you say, it gives you all sorts of different possibilities there. And to funded the 19 trailers that you've got to so far, was that through operations, or did you have to borrow money or get investors?
No, we've not gone down the investors route, which is something that Kate and I have been discussing. So we've only been operating since October 2019, and as I said before, we sort of set our business up on the back of identifying a niche in the market from when we got married. And although I used to be a chartered surveyor and I did business planning for farmers and grant applications for farmers for the entirety of my previous career. I must admit, I didn't do much of a business plan for this business.
Yep.
And since then, it's grown organically. So we invested in our first trailer on a bit of a whim just before lockdown. We went to the National Wedding Show, and which was so the National Wedding Show, I think, was about 3 days before we got locked down, and we managed to secure about 60 bookings from that for our one trailer, which all got cancelled.
Yeah.
But what lockdown did for us, it was actually quite beneficial. On the one hand, we didn't benefit from any of the grants that were available. Kate and I were able to continue working at the same time as effectively marketing our business for 2 years solid.
Okay.
And after lockdown, we'd got ourselves to a position where we had 5 trailers, which we knew we could invest in because we knew we got the business for them, because those trailers were booked out every weekend through the summer for the year that we came out of lockdown. And so basically we've grown our business through, to start with, we put in our own savings to buy our first trailer. We were lucky enough to get a job with the BBC, providing Loos for the repair shop during lockdown. We then reinvested the profits into those next trailers. We borrowed a little bit of money, but effectively the business has grown through reinvesting profits.
Brilliant. Very good.
That's where we are now.
Yeah, fantastic. And how many of you are there in the team?
So we've got 5 full-time members of staff on board. So myself and Kate as the directors and owners. We then have a girl in the office and 2 full-time workshop guys who do the delivery and manage the yards in the summer. And then there's 5 seasonal members of staff who come in for cleaning and extra hands delivering units all over the country during the summer months.
Yeah, great. And if you've got, you just mentioned, for example, you'd had the shower there at in London for that show for a month. What happens about servicing in the meantime? Obviously, if it's a loo, then it's got to be presumably empty. These aren't plumbed in, are they?
No, they're not plumbed in. So they work on a concept of, it's called a recirculating unit, and you prime it with water. So they need emptying. Well, we were going into London twice a week on a Monday and Friday to service and clean. Typically, for weddings, you don't need to do that because the trailer, our biggest trailer, has a capacity to do an event of up to 300 people for an entire day. So they last pretty well. But on these long-term jobs, we are in and out, and obviously that's an additional extra which we charge for. So again, it helps the income on that. And so that's what we do, and it's not the prettiest of jobs. It looks lovely. If you go on our Instagram, you'll be able to see lovely shepherd's huts with brides stood outside, but you don't see the back end where I'm hanging out the back of a trailer with my head in the tank trying to get someone's lost watch that they've flushed down the loo.
The way you said that makes me feel that probably did happen, did it?
It's happened many a time. Yeah, many a time.
We're now painting a lovely image for everybody listening. But you kind of remind me of we have an Airbnb property that I service that's got a macerator loo in it, and every now and then that clogs up, and it's like, okay. Yeah,
they're not the prettiest things to sort out, are they?
No, but that's on a tiny scale compared with you. All right. So what's the competition like? What's the marketplace like that you're in?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So there's 2 tiers, I think, there's 3 tiers to the toilet hire industry. You've got your plastic sort of portable loos, which you've all seen on building sites and at festivals. The next level up is what I'd call a luxury loo trailer, which you may have seen. They're sort of white or green trailers, and inside they look very nice. Yeah. But in my opinion, they don't set the world on fire. They're nice, but they don't set the world on fire. And then there's the next level, which I think where we target our trailers, and that market is sort of high-end luxury. Yeah. And in that niche of our particular market sector, there's very, very few people. We've got ourselves to, we are the probably the market leader without sounding too big-headed, in that we've got the most trailers and doing this part of the market. There is a little bit of, there's competition elsewhere. There were one or two people who were doing it before us. And since we've started, there have been a few copycat businesses, which I suppose is a great form of flattery. And the sector's big enough for us all. There's a lot of work out there, albeit seasonal, but there's a lot of work out there. I think the UK wedding industry is valued at something like 9 billion. So, there's plenty to do. I mean, that's not all outdoor weddings, but we are fully booked for this year, nearly. And we've got inquiries coming in, probably 10 a day for this year still, which shows the level of interest, which is why we've gone down the franchising route.
Yeah. Well, let's explore that. Let's explore that now. So, take us through some of your thinking then behind the franchise.
So, the business is quite labor intensive. Most toilet hire companies would operate within sort of a 2-hour, 60-mile radius of their base, just because of the manpower needed to get a trailer to Scotland. That's a whole day out of someone's workload. It's also quite competitive in that, there's lots of toilet hire people around the place, and we will quote somebody. Our hire charge is probably only £100 more than the sort of next level down trailer, but our delivery kills it for a lot of people. So our thinking was, well, can we expand and put satellite yards around the country to get us closer to the customer? And we looked at the options. We looked at employing people to do that ourselves, or franchising. And the reason why we opted for franchising is because it is a hard industry to work in. You've got to have sort of many skills, and you've got to be really dedicated and passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
Kate and I have developed the business based on our personalities, and we put our all into it, and I think that reflects in the product that we deliver. And our worry was that not all employees are like this, but if we're employing people to do a job and they don't do it to our standard, then that's going to reflect badly on us. So getting franchisees in who would be, properly vetted, they're invested in it. They've put money and time into it. And so we are hoping that they will put in the same amount of effort and work to the same standards as we do. And that's going to come down to us making sure we select the right people in the first place. But putting those standards in place through the franchise model will hopefully enable us to expand more quickly than we could do on our own without financial and investors, and continue to deliver the same standard service.
Yeah. And what have you learned so far about your franchise journey? Did you say you've got a franchise, first franchisee pilot, didn't you?
We have our first pilot franchisee on board who I'm really pleased to be working with, a chap called Charlie Warburton and his team. They are great, and I think we've been lucky actually in finding them. And maybe not every franchisee will be the same, but one of the things I've learned about franchising is it's not a quick fix. I've been working on it for 18 months. There's a lot of paperwork involved. You've got to get the financials spot on, because essentially we are selling a model based on figures that we've done and we know we can achieve. But if you over-egg those figures, somebody is investing in those returns. And if they don't get those returns, it's me they're going to come to. So we've had to do, we've done a lot of due diligence on that to make sure that that's correct. And I think it's the costs of setting up a franchise aren't, they're pretty high. And so it's cost us a lot. So I'm hoping it's going to be successful. At the moment, I think it is. We've got lots of inquiries from other people interested. So the idea is to run the pilot for a year with Charlie to see how that goes. And then when we're satisfied that it's working properly, offer it up to other people.
Great. So you mentioned the paperwork and all of those good things. Have you sourced help with that? Have you got?
We have, yeah. So we've been working with a franchise consultant who, am I allowed to say who?
Yeah, of course you
yeah.
are.
So it's Franchise Focus, a chap called Clive Smith, who they're quite a small firm. I mean, one of the things as a business we like to do is to work with people who are like us, not multinational firms. We like to work with local businesses. And yeah, they've been brilliant, and they've guided us through the whole concept. And yeah, we're at the point now where we're about to instruct solicitors to finalise the franchise agreement so that we are ready to roll as of the 1st of April once the season kicks off.
Excellent. No, they're good. I know. So it's Clive and Simon, isn't it? That head out.
Correct. Yeah.
And good people. And sounds like they've been able to help you really well there, which is great. Yeah,
it's great, and it's really good to have someone who I can just phone on the whim and say, I've had an idea about this. What about doing it like this? And they give you great feedback. They point you in the right direction. At the end of the day, it's my decision on which route we go down, but I feel like the guidance we've had is invaluable.
Yeah. So what have you included in your in your franchise offer? What's the core of it?
So essentially what we're offering is we will supply them with 5 trailers to start with. We think that in order for it to be a success for a franchisee, they need at least 5 trailers, which is essentially one of each of our models, plus an extra of the biggest unit. So we will supply those to them at a heavily discounted rate, as opposed to what they could have them done or built on the open market.
Okay.
Because the job, like I said, is quite labor intensive. So during the season, I do them my week slightly back to front, but Thursday, Friday, you're delivering trailers. Saturday, you could be a toilet attending at a wedding.
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday, you're collecting them. Tuesday, Wednesday, you're cleaning them ready to go again. So there's very little time for office work. So our model is going to basically see our head office dealing with all the inquiries that come in to the Nomadic Washroom website.
Right.
We will then book them out for people, talking to them, saying like, who can, do you want this job, et cetera, and we will then book it out for them. And then once it's been done, we hand it over to the franchisee to organize a delivery and collection, because that's something that they need to do, because we don't know where they are or what they're doing. So effectively, they're walking into sort of a ready-made business, which is essentially what a franchise is. And we're trying to make the most difficult part of the job, which is responding to inquiries promptly, which is why I think we do so well, taking that pressure off them so that they can concentrate on the most important bit, which is actually getting the unit to site, set up properly and working correctly, because no one likes breakdowns, especially with something like this.
Yeah. So they're almost don't have to worry about the marketing side of it either, because you're bringing them the leads. Yeah,
so we're bringing in the leads. So how the franchise agreement works is that we're responsible for national marketing and maintaining our brand, which I think we've developed quite well over the years, and getting that traffic through the main website. But what we're asking franchisees to do is to market locally. So go to the local wedding venues, try and make connections with the local marquee hirers or TP hirers, which is what we've done. And we're fortunate enough to having worked all over the country, we know quite a lot of those people, so we can put them in touch. But what we're looking for the franchisee to do is to market themselves locally and secure bookings, which would then come back through the main website. And then we will look after anything that comes in organically from our website, and then manage the big contracts. Your Glastonburys and your Silverstones and things like that, what we're going to be able to do is say, right, Glastonbury need 25 trailers that weekend. So let's say we've got another 5 franchisees on board and we've got 30 trailers. We can say, well, we need 5 from you, 5 from you, 5 from you. And pool the trailers to cover these big contracts, which is, they are the most lucrative of our
Great.
business instructions.
Yeah, and are you breaking new ground with this, or are some of the even in some of the other levels of the Loos, are other companies doing something like this, or are you breaking completely new ground?
Well, chatting to Clive about it, he did a bit of market research, and that he didn't think there was anybody else franchising in the loo hire industry in the UK. Yeah. They are doing so over in New Zealand. There's a franchise out there, but we think we're probably the first or the only people doing it at the moment.
Excellent.
Which is good. So yeah, we tried to be innovative and think outside the box, and hopefully it pays off.
Good. So all from a conversation when at your wedding then with your wife. This is how it all started.
Yeah, literally. We like I say, we were hoping to have a marquee wedding here at home, and there were no nice loos, and probably about 6 months afterwards, we're both fed up with our jobs. We both pretty entrepreneurial. Previously, we ran a mobile wood-fired pizza business, which we actually only sold last year. But we both got this drive to make a difference and do something for ourselves. And I think my mother and father would probably say that one of the first things I said when I, got to school is that I wanted to be my own boss. Right. And so I think Kate said to me one day, "What about doing toilets in shepherd's huts?" So I did a bit of research, and one thing led to the next, and there it was, parked on our drive with no experience of how to operate the thing other than some common sense. And it's 3 or 4 years later, here we are.
And are there any regulations that you've had to meet?
Yeah, so obviously, because we're dealing with sewage at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So regulations and red tape is obviously ever evolving, and you speak to people who've been in this industry for years and years, and when they first started, it was easy to get rid of the waste, but we have to have permits, environmental permits. When we're dealing with fresh water in our showers, we've got to make sure that everything is cleansed for Legionellas.
Yeah.
There's the health and safety worked out, which everyone has to abide by. But from our point of view, there's the driving regulations as well. Drivers around about the place. We use so that the used loos do use a chemical to keep them smelling sweet. So you've got your COSH regulations and all this sort of thing. So one of the things that I've learnt throughout sort of running Nomadic Washrooms is the advice of others is invaluable. Right. When we first started, I tried to do everything myself. I tried to read up on it. And when you start to value your time properly, a job that would take a professional a couple of hours to do, and you might charge you £500, you could be sat at doing for a week. And if you actually calculate what your time's worth, it's wasted, and you might get it wrong in the end. I think you've got to have a good understanding of everything, but I'm now at the point where I leave it up to the experts. And so we have health and safety consultants in once a year to do reviews on all the yards and make sure that our risk assessments are all up to date. We use digital marketing consultants. We're using Clive for the franchise. I like to talk to others in the industry about what they're doing and trying to get ideas and sharing my ideas with people. So it's valuable.
Yeah, good advice. Recognizing the value of your time, but also where your time is most appropriately spent, and recognizing when perhaps actually it might be better to have somebody else to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good. And what have been some of the high points in your journey so far?
Yeah, there's been lots. I mean, working in the wedding and events industry is such. It's a joy, because whenever you go to a wedding, generally speaking, the people that you're delivering your units to are happy because they're about to get married. And one of the things that gets me every time is when we get our reviews back, and people say, "I never knew I'd be so happy about a loo," or "I never knew that I'd cry about a loo." I mean, we've had several thank you cards where they've taken a photo, bride and groom stood outside the loo, and things like that. They just make you feel that what you're doing is it's worthwhile and you're on the right thing. So those are my everyday highs, but some of our sort of biggest highs have been some of the sort of celebrity weddings that we've been to. We probably can't name who we've been to just because of confidentiality, but we have a very big wedding coming up this year, which again, I can't really say much about it, but it's one of those ones that you pinch yourself when you think, wow, little Stu from mid Wales has managed to mix with these guys. And things like that are, they make you, because you do question when you run a business like this. And I mean, we're scaling, but we're not, you're not in the millions of pounds worth of turnover yet. And you do question yourself. You're sat in the office at 10 o'clock at night and you think, what am I doing? But then when you get this feedback and you see where you're going with your business and the clients that you're dealing with, you think, this is, I'm happy with where I am.
Brilliant. And you mentioned where you're going. Obviously, the plan is hinging around franchising by the sounds of it. So what's the goal? What are you trying to get to? So
I mean, ideally we'd like to get to between 5 and 10 franchisees. We think that level is manageable from our point of view. It also doesn't flood the market with trailers because if we've got too many of them, they're not going to be booked out. And we think that having those strategically dotted around the country, we think is the is the optimum. So it's not going to be a McDonald's type franchise, but I think it's going to be a sustainable franchise. We'd also like to look at going overseas with it. We've had some inquiries from Belgium, another guy from Norway, Italy and France. So that's another level up, which we're going to need to take some advice on when that comes to fruition. But really what we strive to be is the market leader in Shepherd's Hut toilet and shower hire. We'd like to expand our building element and build for fixed site venues, so do them on non-mobile chassis. And really my wife and I's goal is to actually give something back. Last year we flew out to Bangladesh. We worked with a local charity called Self-Help Africa, who have expanded into Bangladesh and India. We visited a project that they're working on where we've donated £6,000 to build, I think it's 25 latrines out there. So we wanted to relate it to our business. So that was the natural thing to do. And it, being able to be in a position where you can give back to society and people who are, less fortunate than we are is quite a big part of what Kate and I are all about. So that was great. And we'd like to do more of that. I mean, eventually we'd like to have a Nomadic Washrooms Foundation where we can promote feminine hygiene and, sanitation issues around the world if we can, but you have to dream big, Kevin.
Yeah, wow. What a worthy goal. Excellent. Okay. And you mentioned some of the highs and things. What have been some of the lows along the way? I imagine putting the deposit down on your first unit and then everything going to lockdown might have been one of them.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. It was when is this going to end? Are we ever going to get out of it? Have we done the right thing? But it actually turned out to be a positive thing. But I mean, some of the, I suppose, the lows have been as a result of some mistakes that we've made in business. We set the company up as a partnership originally. We transferred to a limited company 2 years ago, which we thought was the right thing to do. But what we didn't realize is that Kate and I had effectively sold all the assets to the company. So we got stung heavily by tax. And that put a dent in cash flow. And it was difficult for a little while, but we got through it. And things like this, I mean, I think that
actually, before you go on for that, do you just want to drill in and explain that a bit more for anybody listening that might have set up as a partnership and then is thinking about going limited? You just want to take through the lesson that you really learned there and what you could have done about it, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the lesson that we learned there was a little bit more foresight into where the business was going to go. Like I said, when we set this business up, we kind of set it up as a lifestyle business. As I previously said, we'd take a trailer, we'd have a weekend away.
Yeah.
And we ran it as a partnership. But as it grew and, there's more liability on us as individuals, we were advised and took the advice to put it into a limited company, which it's great on the one hand, but on the other hand, what we didn't realize is that I think we got something like £250,000 worth of assets at that point, which we transferred into the limited company. And from a tax point of view, that's seen as a sale.
Yeah.
So we had to pay a substantial amount of capital, I think it was capital gains tax, wasn't it, on the disposal, having not received any money for it.
Yeah.
So, I think the lessons I've learned from it is to plan ahead, try and see where you think your business is going to go and not trip yourself up. Another example of where we did this is we opted to, when we started, we didn't think we'd get above the VAT threshold.
Yeah.
We quickly did go above the VAT threshold. What that meant is that so in our business, we book trailers out anything up to 2 years in advance. So we'd got agreements with people where they were paying a figure, let's say £1,000, non-vatable. We went VAT registered. When we took that money, we had to swallow the VAT.
Yeah.
So on their balancing payments on probably up to 100 bookings, we lost 20% of the final payment.
Yeah.
So again, it affected the cash flow. And I think if I had my time again, I'd have thought about it in a lot more detail and said, right, we're setting up as a limited company from the word go, and we're going VAT registered from the word go.
Yeah.
Because it did bite us. We've recovered from it, but it's...
Well, yeah. And considering what you said about being able to fund 19 units, trailers over that time, from the cash flow, and you've had those challenges where you've straight away with the VAT, you knock 20% off your gross profit. Sounds pretty impressive. The cash flows must be quite strong. Aside from that,
yeah, they are, and they're brilliant in the summer, absolutely brilliant, and then the winter it dries up. But the beauty of what we have is, like I say, we're taking bookings 2 years in advance, so we're taking deposits every month, and that's great for cash flow.
Okay.
And we've been lucky. We have invested almost all of the profits every year back into the company. Kate and I would eventually like to take some money out more than our salaries, but we're just as keen as mustard to continue growing. And like I said at the beginning, we are tentatively exploring getting an investor in, but how to pitch loo hire to an angel, I'm not quite sure how to do it yet.
Yeah, would you like to invest in Stew the Poo? Yes. Yeah. And here's our vision of but equally, what would you actually want the investor to do? Why do you need some investment if you're going down the franchise route?
I think just to grow a bit quicker, because so the trailers are quite expensive, and it's not just the trailers you've got to buy. For every 3 or 5 trailers you have, you need another pickup truck vehicle to tow them around.
Yeah.
You need a pump, you need yards and whatnot. And I think, if we had some investment, we'd have more cash reserves to sort of invest in more people. We've got a great team at the moment, but I think we need to grow that, especially as the franchise develops. We're going to need more office staff. We're going to need people who can work independently, but as part of a team. And we need more skilled people to help us build them and to help us deliver and maintain them. At the moment, Kate and I do an awful lot of the work ourselves, which is, as you'll find with any sort of new growing business, I sweep the yard and I do the accounts and I manage the staff. I do everything.
You find the watches down the Loos, yeah.
Yeah, find the watches down the Loos, but I enjoy it. But I think for the business to really grow, I need to invest in more people to replace me on the more practical side of it, although I love doing that, so I can invest more time into managing the business and helping it grow further. And the same with Kate. Kate deals with all the inquiries with the help of Hannah in the office. And I think we need more people. The amount of inquiries we get through is phenomenal.
Okay, all right. So talking about team, then you outlined earlier the sort of numbers of people that you've got. So what have you learned about hiring and managing people?
I think one of the mistakes we made in the early days was rushing into employing people. Our very first employee is still with us, a young lad called Tommy, who is very good. He was a university student and he could back a trailer like mustard, which was just what we wanted. And he's still here. But the second guy who we employed to be our yard manager didn't turn out to be quite right, but we're in the thick of the season and we hadn't got the time to replace him effectively. So he stayed with us, and there were lots of mistakes made, none that weren't surmountable, but it made our life more difficult. And I think one of the things I've learned, and we found this with our new yard manager who's been with us now for a year on the 1st of March, is that you have to invest in people. You've got to, don't skimp on good employees.
Yeah.
Having a good team around you makes your life so much easier. And also, employing people to do things that you're not good at, or they can do better than you. Don't be afraid of that, because Simon is, he's down there welding up a shepherd's hut frame. Now, I could probably do it, but I make a right hash of it and it'd take me 5 times as long. Yeah. Having him down there doing that so I can be in here doing more of the paperwork is money well spent, I think.
All right, good, excellent. And we talked briefly about the seasonality before, and one of the things that you said that you can do to address that is by building the units that that enables you to expand, but also for your franchisees to purchase below market price. How does the franchisee themselves address the seasonality? What can they do?
Again, they can look to do a bit of what we've done. I mean, the franchise has been set up based on that seasonality, and the figures are based on that. So when they're buying in, they know that the lion's share of their income is going to be coming in the summer. We are essentially looking for franchisees where this isn't their core business to start with. We're hoping to deal with people who are in the events industry, but doing something relatable, but not the same. So we are talking to a few bell tent hire companies, a few marquee hire companies. So this is more of an add-on, a bolt-on for them. If they get on really well, then there's nothing to stop them investing in more trailers and taking on 10 trailers, for example. But it is very seasonal. I mean, we do get hires through the winter, but due to the UK weather, very few people have outdoor parties throughout the winter. So that's been built into our model, the seasonality factor.
Good. Excellent. So if we're sat here in 5 years' time, then Stu, what has to have happened for you to go, you know what, we did well in those 5 years?
Yeah, I think we want to get to the £1 million turnover mark in our own business. So since we've started, our turnover's doubled every year, which is great. We're set to turn over about 400 to 450 this year, which isn't a massive amount compared to some business, but we're proud of that. I don't know, turnover's vanity, but it's profitable as well, which is great. in 5 years' time, I'd like to be in a position to look back and say, yeah, we've done all right there, Kate, and we've got our 10 franchisees dotted around the place. Yeah. We're still the market leader, and we've managed to set up this foundation that we'd like to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's our goal, and I think we're on track. I think.
Anything, what might be the biggest thing that could derail you?
I think if we had another pandemic, that's going to really be quite damaging to the business, because it relies on people gathering in large numbers. I think that competition, as people see that this is a good thing, I think that more and more people are going to try and replicate it, which is great, but which means we've got to try and keep our position up there as market leader. I also worry, and one of my biggest worries is that this is very niche, and is it something that is going to become obsolete, in that our shepherd's hut's just a thing at the moment? Everyone likes going on a shepherd's hut holiday, but they didn't like doing that in the 60s. And will they be doing it in 2040? Yeah. And I think in order to tackle that, we've got to look at diversifying the business a little bit, and maybe expand into something similar but different, whatever that phase or craze might be at the time. It may be that it's not shepherd's huts anymore, it's railway carriages, just for example. We've got to look at that. But I think our brand is based on that rustic, quirky toilet facility. Yeah. And that's something that we want to maintain.
Brilliant. Good. Well, I wish you all the best, certainly with that. And I've really enjoyed our discussion around perhaps a slightly delicate subject. And I think you've given lots of takeaways for people listening, which is brilliant. Are you okay for a couple of quick fire questions before we close?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So if you could go back to your younger self, Stu, what advice would you give yourself?
That's a good question. To stop worrying as much as I used to. Okay. And just basically, if you see an opportunity, take it, and don't wait for things to happen. They won't happen. You've got to go and get them.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant. Good. And you're obviously continually learning and looking for advice and things like that. What sort of resources would you point others to? It might be books, might be podcasts, might be courses, might be whatever. But what would you point others to?
Yeah, I mean, both Kate and I are big podcast fans. On our morning walk, we probably look pretty antisocial because we're both listening to someone else chatting away to us. But I think podcasts, books are fantastic. Just continue reading, even if it's something that you don't think you're interested in. You can take inspiration from all walks of life and all sectors of industry and business. And I just find it fascinating learning about other people's businesses, learning from their mistakes. Yeah. And I think there's a plethora of resources out there. I mean, this podcast is one example. Listen to other business owners, what they've done, how they've done it. And just take from it what you can, I think.
All right, brilliant, thank you. And what sort of apps do you have on your phone? What ones do you find useful?
Oh, I must admit, I quite like. Well, I've got some pretty unrelated apps that are unrelated to business, but some of the best ones on there I've got is obviously I like the Zero app. I've got a great one for tracking where my vehicles are around the country, which is fantastic. So I can see if the boys are in McDonald's, which is great. And I've actually just downloaded an app called Headway, which is it basically takes some of the best sort of business books and puts them into bite-sized snippets, 15-minute read at a time. And they're fantastic because you get the point, especially when you're busy, like most business owners are. You can take 15 minutes over a coffee in the morning and just get some information and do a little bit of learning, a little bit of reading.
Very good. Yeah. Headway. There's a couple of others along the same line, but you're right. It's great way of getting concise information without having to spend a lot of time reading. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And is there anyone who would you say has had the most influence on you as a business leader?
That's a good question. I mean, my first boss, I think, was so when I started as a rural surveyor and auctioneer 10 years ago, I worked for a chap called Nick Hanson in Ashbourne in Derbyshire. And the way he dealt with people was just fantastic. He was so approachable and personable and brilliant at his job that I took just, yeah, he just inspired me basically. And ever since, I've always said that if you can deal with people and talk to people and listen to them, you're going to get results out of them. And yeah, I learned that from him. He never told me how to do it. I just watched him. I worked under him for 2 years, and yeah, he wrote a very long letter. I'm afraid I'm a little bit guilty of writing emails that are far too lengthy, but that was one of the bad things he taught me. But everything else was fantastic.
Excellent, good. And what's, you've got bookings for the next year pretty much fully sorted. What is your most successful marketing tactic? What do you do that works?
So our website is our best marketing tactic. So we have sort of 3 elements. We've got our website, and we've recently invested in a digital marketing company who have seen our website go from strength to strength. I think we had something like 65 people respond to a social media post the other day. We get 5,000 users on the website every month.
Wow.
Every month they're increasing our traffic by at least 100%, which is absolutely brilliant. But one of our best ways of marketing is a simple business card left in the Loos at the weekend. We estimate there's anything between 3,000 and 5,000 people going through our Loos every weekend.
Yeah.
And it only takes 10% of them to pick up a business card and give us a call. And it's a great way of marketing for us.
Very nice. Very good. Well, it has been absolutely fascinating, Stu. Thank you very much. I think we know your Twitter handle already, probably, but what's the best way for people to contact you if they'd like to talk to you or find out more about Nomadic Washrooms? Yeah,
so they can drop us an inquiry on our website, which is www.nomadicwashrooms.co.uk. They can search the hashtag Stew the Poo on Instagram, which my wife likes to tag me as, or it's Nomadic Washrooms on Instagram.
Fantastic. Stu, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio today, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been great to chat.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.